Welcome to another episode of Bold Heart Awakening. Today we are diving into how to create greater connection in your relationship. So instead of feeling this distance and like maybe you don't even know who your partner is anymore, and instead create greater intimacy. So when we think of connection, sometimes we think of just, maybe spending more time together. I remember I was dating a man and we had a lot of activities in common. We would go hiking and biking and do all these fun, like travel and cook and all these things, which you would think would create great connection. But there was always something missing, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it until, of course, we had been dating a while and just we weren't connecting on that deep emotional and spiritual level. And of course, that's disappointing when you're with someone who you get along well with, you have great attraction, you have great fun. And often we think that's exactly what a relationship is just having fun together and having this sort of, friendship. But when you're not connecting on an emotional and spiritual level, at some point, activities aren't enough. And jumping into bed isn't enough, of course. So you need to really get to the heart of how to create deeper connection. And that's what we're going to be exploring today, because there's so much richness when you create that deeper emotional and spiritual connection. That's going to enhance all the activities. It's going to help you create greater intimacy and, of course, greater connection so that you can have those really deep, meaningful conversations and feel like you're really known and seen and understood by your partner. So where this comes from is when you're seeking something to change in your relationship, it's because there's a part of your heart that knows you are connected, you are designed for relationship. And oftentimes relationships in this world leave you feeling like something's missing. When you are raised by, parents who maybe don't have a great relationship, or even you've had, other people in your family who you have seen not have great relationships. So when you don't have a model of what a great relationship is, it's really confusing. And you start to seek out something that maybe you don't even believe you can have. But there's a part of your heart that really desires to have a relationship where you feel seen, you feel understood, you feel known, you feel safe, you feel secure, you feel deeply loved. And that's hard when a lot of your relationship models haven't shown you that. And maybe you haven't experienced that in your family, which many people don't. And where this longing is coming from for this deeper level of connection, it's coming from God, because that hole in your heart that's seeking something that many relationships are unable to feel, most relationships on this earth are unable to feel, is because that hole in your heart can only be filled by God. And once you start to recognize that and seek a relationship with God and put that as your priority, and that is the core relationship in your life, then all the other relationships in your life change. Because when you start to recognize how much God loves you, that's beyond any love that is even possible by humans, and you start to understand how he sees you, then you start to see yourself differently. Then you start to show up in your relationships differently. You start to come from a place of security. You come from a place of knowing you're significant. You come from a place of knowing you are deeply loved. And that internal shift, that heart transformation, is what allows you to show up really quite differently in your relationships, because you're no longer seeking the relationship to fill something in you, because you're already filled. And it's not your relationship's job to fill anything in you. That's God's job. And he brings people in your life to help you grow and to bring you closer to him. And so when you really commit to this and dive into this, what happens is you no longer are having those disagreements and feeling like you're not getting your needs met and having to tell your partner how you're not getting your needs met and how he's wrong. And everything that's wrong with your relationship, everything that's wrong with him. Instead, you come from a place of knowing who you are because you know who God says you are and you know how loved you are by God. So you enter into the relationship, into conversations from a place of compassion, from a place of understanding, from a place of wanting to understand your partner instead of feeling like you just need to be understood and he needs to listen. And when you approach it from this place of full-heartedness and bold-heartedness and really wanting to know your partner and understand him, then he stops feeling that judgment and that shame and that he's always in the wrong and he can never do anything right and you're always picking on him or criticizing him. When that stops, he starts to feel safe in the relationship. And when you're both coming from that place, then you start to deepen your intimacy and your connection because you're no longer trying to prove anything. You're no longer trying to get something from him that he is not responsible for giving you. And he no longer feels he's always under attack and needs to defend himself. So then he's willing to give more of himself because he feels safe in giving more of himself. And then you both start to feel safe and secure and seen and understood and loved because your focus has changed. Your focus is not on what he can do for you and what you can do for him. Your focus is on what God can do through you and how when God does this through you, how much more you can love each other, how much more you can serve each other, how much more you desire to serve each other because you're coming from a full heart. And that place of wanting to be giving and generous and loving to your partner is something that this world, it's not possible. Because often in this world, when we think of giving and loving to our partner, we're always wanting something back in return. But when you're coming from a place of giving from who you know you are through God's eyes, there is no attachment. There is no condition. You give freely. And when there is something that's going on that's causing you a little bit of unease, instead of going into battle with your partner, you go into prayer with God and ask him to change your heart. And as your heart changes, then you're able to have this conversation that might have been difficult in the past with greater compassion, with greater understanding, with greater poise, with greater calm. And that's what allows your relationship to continue to evolve. And you're able to have those challenging conversations with love and with compassion and with a desire to deepen your relationship and to grow and to know each other better. So if you are in a place where just feeling like you're disconnected and feeling really distant from your partner and there's a lot of bickering and just this tension in your relationship and you really want to get it to a place where it's full of joy, it's full of ease, it's full of love, it's full of this freedom to be who you truly are and for your partner to be who he truly is, and together to really grow and evolve and become the people you're meant to be, become the people that God designed you to be. Encourage you to send me a message and we'll explore working together in my Bold Heart relationship mentorship, where you will go from bickering to back to being best friends, to really enjoying each other's company no matter what you're doing. And instead of lashing out, going back to being loving and caring and understanding and wanting to walk the rest of your life with this person. So send me a message and we can talk about what that looks like. We can talk in the chats about what that looks like. And until then, I encourage you to think about, what is it that your heart is longing for in your relationship? And what would be possible for you if you allowed yourself to experience that in a whole different way, in a way that this world is not possible of giving you? All right. Talk to you soon.